Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. Once again, coming at you from a real live cave. It's actually quite literally pitch black outside. It's actually quite the storm currently going on, but I got a good night of sleep, so I'm feeling pretty damn good. And we got plenty to talk about on Bitcoin as it does head up towards that low $11,000 target. So I want to be following up on that as the criteria for the continuation move yesterday was met right after stream. So we'll be talking about that. Of course, I want to talk about traditional markets as well, maybe a little bit of forex in there too. And with that said, I'd like to wish you the best and the to the happiest. With that said, let's go over here to the Krown Chain application, which you can find at app.krownchain.net. And what do we see over here? We see that open interest has come up another little smidgen there. Still kind of playing with the overall range, but more importantly, we do see open interest going up with price action going up, while also volume and volatility also, well, actually we need to look at that, but I do believe that it was headed in the same direction as well, which is a good sign. Bitcoin dominance coming down a slight smidgen there from about a little bit over 58 and a quarter down to about 57 and 3/4. So we are seeing a slight, ebb and flow with the altcoin market, but we are seeing Bitcoin kind of take the pole position right now and altcoins moving after. So typically in this market, we do see, rotations in kind of like a weirder sense where all of the majors kind of take turns leading the market, that being Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then, the other ones that kind of take turns have always been different over the years. So I suppose that, I guess right now is DeFi, but overall it is, it is one of those trends that is worth looking at. And right now, Bitcoin does seem to be the one that's doing most of the heavy lifting. On top of that, we do see that the fear and greed index popping back up from a 43 to a 48 yesterday, after a little bit of a weird read yesterday. Also want to check out the data tab over here as well and see if there's anything out of the ordinary. Do we see anything on this? No, not really. Premium still staying nice and above. What about the global funding rate? Actually popped up quite a bit there to 0.04% from all the way at 0.01%, which we saw yesterday. So is it that high overall? No, absolutely not. Still not until we get back above like 0.1%, where we start to really look for potential local highs on like the major run. But for right now, it is rising, so that is of interest, and we do want to document that going over these next few weeks. Other than that, the fear and greed index still just kind of holding that same range that we saw in July of this year. So it's time to go check out some good old price action running over here. And Bitcoin did, more importantly, as I follow up from yesterday's short-term analysis, take out the 10,850-ish region right here on a 4-hour total closure. Actually, right after we closed the stream, in fact, and that was the trigger for initiating targets into the low $11,000 range. In fact, I was saying something like 11.2 to 11.3 in this blue box right here. Yeah, 11.2 actually to 11.250-ish region if I'm looking at a 4-hour right now. And as you can see, we actually did get front run a little bit at just above 11,100-ish region, so about $100 away from the lower echelon of that target. So does that mean that it's all over and it's never going to happen and Bitcoin's going back down to fucking zero? Well, no. Similar things on the way up as the way down here. And in fact, because Bitcoin did overtake this short-term area right here, which should obviously lead into the 12-hour and daily as well, which we'll go over, soonish. I would like to actually flip this down and be a little bit more conservative with this. So no longer would I use this to be managing it. In fact, I would use the same sort of bottom edge of that, but I'd flip it around so that it's a little bit more like this and actually take the top side down a little bit more as well, because I don't want it in line with that 200 exponential average right there. It should be somewhere between about 10,850-ish region. Yeah, right around there, and about 10,800-ish base. But I would not be managing this on a 4-hour closure. I actually don't think that that's very much appropriate right now. The reason why I say that is because it's too low of a time frame, and there's too many higher term time frame things going on right now. So it's really the 12-hour and the daily that I want to have a big focus on right here. And what I would say about this is that Bitcoin's kind of in like a precarious place. If there is going to be a bull trap, if there is going to be a failure on this rally, it likely does come from the current area that we're in over the next few days, if that's going to happen. For what it's worth, because Bitcoin did overtake that, that short-term area that we spoke about yesterday, I do still look at this as more likely to still give another try to the upside overall. But if a fake out was going to happen, this would be the area to have it happen in. And the way that I'd kind of judge that is by looking for a 12-hour total closure below that same area that I just flipped right there. In fact, I'm going to flip this one as well. As it's not as relevant as what I want to be looking at. But this one's a big one right here on a 12-hour closure. Anywhere below about 10.8, problems. But as long as above 10.8, fine. And long above 10,850, good. Anyways, can probably even take out this one right. I don't know what the fuck that one was doing right there. Get rid of it. Out, I say. Oh, I guess that was the prior top horizontal that I was using for that blue box. Okay, fair enough. Anyways, on to the daily right here. I think it's a little bit more visually apparent on the daily. Wherever the 21 and 55 are, which they are quite literally right at the bottom end of that blue box that I just flipped right there. As long as we're above that, good. We will naturally get the bullish cross back on that and undo the nasty bearishness that was had a few days ago. And more importantly, that also means that if we were to break back down below it, again, this is the 10,800-ish region on a 12-hour or daily. This is going to look like a major fake out to me. And would I say that this is going to happen over like this day? No, probably over the course of like a day or two, if it is going to happen first and foremost. So I feel like I'm being a little bit of a fucking tinfoil hat here with price action, talking about something that might happen in the next couple of days, but is like not the obvious bias right now. Anyways, of course, what we spoke about yesterday takes precedence because that's where price action is going. And as we spoke about, we do see open interest going up with price action, which is typically a good sign. I want to see if historical volatility percentile is also going up with price action as well. I want to see if we're expanding on this current drive. And no, actually, we are continuing to hold the longer term contraction phase. This is the phase that's been started ever since we got into early September right here. And it does have an implied resolution date somewhere, actually, maybe early next week at the earliest, and perhaps late next week at the latest. Let me just check out my calendar right here to see if these times match up. No, actually, it imply a little bit longer, depending upon how you kind of chart this out here. If you're drawing it at straight up with the tops, which actually is probably not the right way to be doing it, then yes, it would suggest actually later within this month. If you do draw it more as a regression, it's going to suggest more so like early to late next week, which I think is a little bit more in line with what we're looking at on price action right now. Either which way, though, more importantly, as long as we are living below, especially the moving average on this, and this proverbial trend line right here as well, like maintaining these lower highs on this run, we are still in a contraction phase. This is still to be considered just one piece of the whole. And that would actually not be what you want to see alongside open interest going up. So I'm glad that we did take a quick look at that. Also, volume as well, not really going up alongside it in the same direction. So it's a little bit of a little bit of a contingent point. That's why I do bring up this potential point of failure here. That would be what I'm essentially looking for. But still, price action trumps all. And as long as we're living above 10.8, I don't really have any real reason to think that that's going to happen. Now, do I think that we're going to test 10.8? Yes, I do. However, Bitcoin trading at 10.9 right now, that's not really saying all that much. $100 move from where we are right now. The question is, how does Bitcoin react within that region? If it breaks it below 10.8, especially on a 12-hour or daily, well, that's to the point where I'd target a very quick move back down to about 10.6 base right here. We can also flip this one as well, like I said, make it between about 10.6 and 10.550 in that little $50 pocket right there. I would look for a small bounce there, but it'd very unlikely be a reversal. I would look for that bounce to get faded and come all the way back down towards the low $10,000 region. So that's what's at stake right now. However, like I said, technically speaking, looking for, as long as Bitcoin's closing, especially 12-hour and daily is above 10.8, fine. And I do still look for the 11.2 to 11.300 target to be hit over here, and just overall generally for Bitcoin to float its way upwards and onwards over the next few weeks back into like the mid 11,000s or even high 11,000s. The same areas that we spoke about all throughout August are still going to be relevant as they were on the way down. They will be on the way up, if assuming that Bitcoin does get above there. But to kind of reiterate them in a very forthright way, above about 11,250ish region, I would look for Bitcoin to have another $300 move back up to the 11,500 to 550ish region, the same area that we spent a lot of pivots along throughout the whole month of August. And then above there, of course, 11,750 becomes relevant. Once again, that was actually where we got bearish on this big breakdown right here. And then above there, then you got 12,000 even, or I guess like 12,050 if you want to be super exact. But all of these are more so just position management points as far as I'm concerned. The general disposition with Bitcoin above about 11,250ish region especially is just overall bullish. This is going to be confirmed, not just confirmed, but solidified as a major higher low on a higher term timeframes, which is also driving hidden bullish divergences across multiple different timeframes as well. We do see it, I believe, on the weekly. Yes, it is just ever so present right here between this point and this point in early July versus where we kind of landed at the early September. So that'd be between this local low right here and this local low right here. If that does get confirmed, which any sort of a close here or higher will confirm that, I would look for the weekly to overall initiate moves towards the mid 11,000s to upper 11,000s. So, those areas would be more or less a, a formality or just, relevant to the short-term timeframes, having, judging pullbacks and whatnot. And of course, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is the first thing from financial advice. And if you're the SEC, well, go fuck yourself. Just kidding. But don't fuck me. Anyways, don't fuck me, bro. It's like, anyone remember that? Probably not. Anyways, okay, cool. So if we go back down here to the lower term time frames, what can we make out of this? We do see momentum also is turning down across the board. We see 4-hour Stochs coming back down below the critical zone, not good. We see 4-hour RSI kicked out of the bullish control zone, also not good. Do we see any sort of divergences here forming? No. Oh, by the way, Karatek is actually going to put it. I've actually talked him into putting his indicator up on our app. Jesus Christ, man, I can't get my words out properly. I just think it's fucking cool, man, that he's actually figured out a way to code in how to judge local highs and local lows, and then obviously divergence on top of that. It's really fucking useful, especially since a really common question that I get is, Krown, how do you judge when it's a local high or local low? Well, just take Caretaker's indicator now, so I don't have to fucking explain it. How about that? No, just kidding. Of course, it's a nice stop and reverse point, but I feel like having a something on your chart that just tells you exactly when that's going to happen, on top of like trying to learn it, is going to really help out that sort of process, because you got it right in front of your face whenever you want. You don't need anyone else. It's just right there. Anyways, let's go through all the very low term time frames. I want to see if they line up with each other or not. Looking at the 3-hour right here, yep, we see 3-hour Stochs coming down as well. What else do we see as far as RSI does? We do see, as far as RSI does, look at that. We got some bearish divergence going on here as well, kicked out of the bullish control zone too. However, you could say that the easy part of that has already worked out, and I would say that the tradable part, what I use for divergence strategy, has already played out on that one, with the move back down here towards about 10.8. I guess 10.850 is our current wick low, so that did call that move right here from about 11.50 down to about 10.850. Okay, yeah, $200 move. Fair enough. Anyways, let's keep on going through them. What about the 2-hour, the bi-hourly? We're actually about to get a golden cross, so this baby's going to the fucking moon once again, and we actually potentially have hidden bullish divergence here as well, between this point and this point. Now, I imagine this is not confirmed as a local low, because it's not confirmed as a local low just yet, so there you go. That would make complete sense. But if this does confirm as a local low, which we will see on this indicator, won't happen on this tick, but maybe on the next one. If it does, then we actually will have not only a golden cross, but also a following trend, and some hidden bullish divergence play out at the same time. But still, a few things need to be set in there, and for right now, it is a little bit further away. We also have that same sort of historical volatility percentile read on the bi-hourly, and I've been kind of flip-flopping between which time frame I think is better between the hourly and the bi-hourly. I do think that the hourly is better overall, but there is something to say about the bi-hourly, because it should naturally be in the same areas, and I'm just curious if it does. Nah, I think I'm drawing lines right there. I think it's less tested, as far as I'm concerned. 2-hour Jewel did give a sell signal on the top right there. Not the sell signal that I really look for. That's a little bit too aggressive for me, but overall, yeah, same sort of move right there in line with the divergence. So, if this one does want to come back down and test around 10,750-ish region, that's fine. Testing the golden cross, as it does happen, is rather common. It's whether we break below one of those critical levels, which I would really not judge on a 4-hour. I do not feel comfortable judging this one on a 4-hour. The lowest time frame that I really feel comfortable using is probably a 12-hour, although 10-hour probably works as well. Something with some more meat on it. It does look to me like Bitcoin probably does take a little bit of a further tumble here and test another 100 to 150 bucks lower at like 10.8 or 10.750-ish region. But if the boo laws are going to continue with the upwards trend, we would expect it to get picked up there. Otherwise, we're going to spend some time likely back down below in the low $10,000 region, and potentially that could have another setup for a breakdown as well. And so, well, that's where things can really start to change around. And then what about the hourly? We didn't even go over this one as well. We actually see all momentum oscillators for the lower term time frames in the same direction. We see hourly right here, just to reiterate, bi-hourly right here, triple hourly right here, 4-hourly just turning down right now. Now, people probably also saying, Krown, why do you start to see anything different on all these time frames? Well, it's because sometimes you do, and it's usually a really good signal that something weird is going to happen. And in this case right here, we actually see all of them heading in the same direction. So I do think that Bitcoin has at least another small test down here. The question is, does it hold that level or not? If it does not hold, well, if the level don't fit, then you must short it. There you go. Does that work? I don't know. Doesn't matter if it works or not. It sounds good, and apparently can get you off of all sorts of things. Just kidding. Anyways. Going back to the 12-hour over here, I should also reiterate that 12-hour stocks are kind of in the same area as well, coming, hinting at a cross down from the critical zone. This area has been kind of fraught with peril from the past. Obviously, we have seen a few times where it's actually gotten higher in its history. These are on like extremes, February rally of this year and in April rally of this year. But more recently, typically does like to kind of turn around within this region that we're currently in, and those typically do denote, some pretty nice highs as well. Just kind of going back throughout the annals of history, we see one right here that was kind of lining up that with, and these were greater pullbacks within the context of the overall trend. So, realistically, was it still bullish? Yes. Did it denote like the next major pullback? Also, yes. But, did call this pullback right here, this pullback right here, this pullback right here, and this pullback right here all in the same, all in the same major move to the upside of about $4,000, but at the end of the day did eventually fade. And then more recently, did we see anything as of recent? Yeah, actually right here in July, 23rd of July, and then also 1st of August. Let's see what that lines up with. Wait, hold on. Let's see exactly where this was. 24th of July. Okay, where's 24th of July? 24th of July is actually right here. So that was a terrible one if you're looking at it like that. And then the next one actually coming right here, which is a pretty damn good one as well. So, it's not infallible. Obviously, I want to show that it's not necessarily a death sentence that this is going to happen, because it will happen, especially with Bitcoin below 11,000. It very likely will cross back on down to the downside. But I would say, again, from a 12-hour, as long as we're closing above 10.8, especially, I just don't see any real reason to look for this to be faded, except for just a small little pullback. Perhaps. Anyways, looking at it daily as well, I think that this could all just be summarized by saying, hey, wherever the 21 and 55 are, which they are where? Right around fucking 10.8, right? As long as we're above that, fine. And I just generally look for Bitcoin to move its way back up into the mid to low 11,000s and probably beyond over time. The ebb and the flow of the market, obviously takes time, but as long as that condition is met, my general bias is to the upside. So that's what's at stake right now. We also do see daily momentum oscillators turning back up. I think that's rather important to talk about. We also see a major trend line forming right here too, which will be protecting against the bullish control zone. And while that would be concerning, and it certainly is concerning, I do think that it will provide some counter trend pressure here. It also does imply that we have another day or two of momentum to be filled out right here, which essentially correlates with Thursday and Friday, and then we get to do some weekend bullshit. Oh, isn't that crazy how that sometimes works out? Isn't that fucking crazy? Looking at daily RSI, do we see anything of interest here? No, not really. No divergences either which way. If you wanted to draw some sort of a formation in here, I don't even think that you can Jesus toast this one. I think that this is just an RSI floating between bullish and neutral zones, which is pretty much what we see on price action as well. Historical volatility percentile on the daily actually did spike up yesterday. So you know what? Maybe I do take back what I said about the lower term time frames. That is rather odd that we would see it spike up here on a daily, but not on a shorter term time frames. Technically speaking, we did see it spike up on an hourly, but it was within the overall context of the greater contraction phase. So perhaps the potential issue that I saw with open interest going up and historic volatility percentile not necessarily following in the same way that you would expect is resolved by this. But then again, I would want to see volume pop up as well, and we actually don't see that. So realistically, I think it's kind of a moot point either which way, and it's better to rely on more documentable and verifiable things right now, of which we can maybe go over to the 2-day and 3-day to check that out. And the 2-day did get a pretty damn important closure above above not only the 10 symbol but the 21 exponential average right here as well. We're also going to be turning up momentum oscillators here too. So you'll probably notice something, and also I should also first and foremost to really notify this as well. This trend line going on the 2-day Stokes has been relevant ever since December 2018. That was when Bitcoin was trading at 3,100, by the way, and this is connected with one point in between, with respect to our current one, and that was in March of this year as well. Well, let me remind you exactly where price action was during these times. That was during this major low right here at about 3,100, and then this major low right here at about 4,800, and then actually once again right here, as you can see, with this potential major low right here at about $10,000, coming up extremely aggressively actually. And there is a relationship between like when those trend lines meet and then also where price action is, relative to that. So looking at this right now, it does seem to me like the higher term time frames are painting an obviously more bullish picture. The lower term time frames are saying sideways, maybe a little bit of down as we kind of fill everything out. But overall, as long as those levels are met, I generally run with this disposition overall. And overall, put on your fucking overalls, Farmer Krown, you dumb fuck. Think of a goddamn different word. word. 3-day, do we see anything of, or actually, no, we didn't even go over 2-day RSI. But there ain't nothing to go over here, actually. Fair enough. It's just also in between the bullish control zone and neutral zone. Nothing much to talk about there. 3-day is what I want to focus on, though, as we did get, hey, there you go, some hidden bullish divergence, 1, 2, 3 stabs. But, you know, did the easy part of that move already play out? Yeah, absolutely. With that move to the 10 simple, I think you could very easily argue that signal, while powerful, is mostly already happened, especially when it gave the signal off right around here at about 10,100 region. That's a almost $1,000 move. I think it's relevant to say that that's probably played out. What I would like to say about the 3-day is essentially what follows up from the 12-hour daily and 2-day that we already saw, and that is as long as we're closing 3-day bills above the 21, which is where, guess, just fucking guess, man, it's 10.8. I'll spoil the surprise. It's 10.8. Did you guess? Then you know, all good. But as you can see right here, we are finding a little bit of pressure at the 10 simple. So right now, I do want to do something a little bit different right now, and I want to give a massive shout out to one of my good friends in the Discord, Gapper X. If you know him, he's one of the mods there, and he's just an overall really, really good guy. And he called this one out. He said, "Krown, don't you think it would be more relevant to look at Bitcoin's correlation with like a tech sector rather than Nasdaq, because Nasdaq is, you know, it holds a bunch of different things, both techs and financials, for example, and it's actually more weighted towards financials, you know, as far as just names go." And so I thought about that and like, yeah, you're 100% right. You're not just right, you're 100% right. And so what we should do right here is I've actually just put on just a very, very basic correlation coefficient right here. Nothing too crazy. It's just tracking the correlation to Bitcoin on Bitstamp. Same chart that you see right here. And then what we can do is we can just change the chart to, well, let's look at the tech sector. That's going to be XLK. And let's see. All right. So yeah, you know, actually, before we do that, you know what we should do? We should look at the correlation with Nasdaq. This is Nasdaq future. We can look at like actual Nasdaq right here too. And it's got a correlation coefficient of about 0.78 on the weekly. On a daily, what does it have? On a daily, it shows 0.57. So on a daily, loosely correlated, but it is there. On a weekly, pretty damn correlated. So what can we say about that? On the long term, on the macro scale, they like to fall to each other. Obviously, we kind of know that. On a daily scale, there's times we actually do have an edge trading for against it, depending upon the correlation. Anyways, let's check how that pans out versus the tech sector, XLK. And let's see what it shows here. On the daily, not so impressive as well, actually, about 0.57, very similar to what we see on Nasdaq. If we go over here to the weekly, then we actually see a lot more, 0.881, which is incredibly high, actually, incredibly high. So what we can say about this is that on the macro, we really do expect, the tech sector to kind of lead Bitcoin, or maybe vice versa sometimes as well. But it's just a better judge, it's a better guide overall in comparison to Nasdaq. And we can also just, take this one step further and look at the financials, XLF, and see what they got over here as well. And as you can see right now, XLF still relatively correlated here on the macro on a weekly, 0.62, but rather far away compared to what we saw on the on the tech sector. If we go down to a daily, then we can see that this takes a massive turn right here. This one's quite literally not correlated at all. It has a zero correlation, which does not mean a negative correlation. It has quite literally a zero correlation as it trends kind of sideways and up here within this nasty consolidation. So I do think that that's rather important to point out, because it would be more relevant to actually be looking at XLK. I do look at Nasdaq futures quite often, just because a lot of people watch that, and it is a big player in the game. And as you saw, they're mostly the same. They're mostly the same. But technically speaking, tech sector would be a better idea to be looking at if you do want to measure those sorts of things out. Anyways, looking at this right here, while we are on our secondary charts. What else do I want to check out? Well, let's go see how the Challenger bands are acting in relationship to price action. And what do you know? We're going to see the 10 simple cross to the upside of the 20 simple, probably the next, maybe not tonight, but tomorrow night. So not tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time, but probably Friday. So any sort of a Friday closure above those same areas that we spoke about, because guess where these two moving averages are coming in around? Right below 10.8, and they will move their way up to 10.8 probably in the next day. Then all good, and we'll actually have not only a bullish cross going on right here, but also getting our first open and close above the 20 simple as well. Yesterday we just got our first close above. We're actually working on our first open and close above right now, and that would suggest that we probably do test it back down around around that, which is kind of driving my bias, saying that, yeah, we probably have to play another $150 move to the downside here. But as long as that area doesn't break, again, on a 12-hour or daily, I do look for this to actually get picked up as per my rules. Doesn't mean that it's infallible. It just means that, well, this is essentially a risk management area point or a governor for another downside trade. If you're looking at it, as a break between 10,750 all the way down to like 10,000, I mean, that's tradable to me. That's tradable to me. It would like to be bounced along the way, probably around 10,350, but that's not really relevant for a daily right now. And more importantly, looking at this potential cross going on right here too, this would actually be a really good example of potentially incredibly efficacious cross. The reason being because price action is extremely close to it right now as it wants to get pulled in. But I want to see them both get a positive slope. Obviously, the 10 symbol already does, and obviously cross the upside as well with the lower period trading above the higher period. For right now, it's potential, and it looks like a rather likely potential, but technically not there just yet. What is also very, and 10 more varies interesting is daily MACD. And like I was saying yesterday, this is why I keep these indicators on my charts, the MACD and the Krown bands, because I actually really do like their interplay with each other alongside looking at just breaks of relevant levels to judge plays that don't get picked up with my other tools that I show over here. The tools that I show over here get most of the things that are relevant to my trading strategy. This gets like the things that are kind of left out by that, also relevant to my trading strategy. Again, this is not to say that this is the only way to fucking trade. Obviously, Jesus Christ, man, there's a million goddamn ways to trade and more. As there are 1,000 ways to skin a cat, I guess. But this is just the way that I've kind of been using over time. And looking at the MACD right here, as it gets a bullish cross as Bitcoin does cross not only the 10 symbol but the 20 symbol, and they're looking for their own bullish cross right here as well, and obviously breaking the relevant level that we spoke about yesterday at 10,850-ish region on a 12-hour and daily. Well, that to me is showing that momentum is turning up as Bitcoin does cross these major levels, and that would be a damn good indication that right now is the time to be paying attention. This is a very big pivot going on right here. This does not mean that it can't fail once again. And actually, a lot of the time with the MACD, when you see these two babies come back up to the zero read right here, you will actually see counter trend pressure. Obviously, we still got a few more ticks to go there, but assuming that we even head in the same direction, which is, we're making a lot of assumptions right now. But overall, I do think that it is, it is important to reiterate because that is going to, again, help out the Bulaw's bias here. So with that said, let's go back into the regular charts. And let's start to look around the general markets. Go check out Nasdaq. See what it's doing in the early morning hours, coming down a little bit more aggressively, and a clear rejection off the 10 simple. That would obviously not bode well for Bitcoin if we are looking at these two assets as correlated. But remember, we did say that it's the sorry, am I looking at the right one? Yeah, I'm looking at. Oh my god, this one came down like really fucking hard. But I did say that techs are the ones to be watching right here. This one came all the way back down to what would be akin to like 10,000 or 10,100 region for Bitcoin, and this one's looking a lot more obviously bearish, getting that major rejection right here. We spoke about this coming into this week that it was likely to pop back up to about 11.5, but if we do have a rejection there, bearish once again and back down to 11,000, but that I don't think that it's going to stop here. While I do think that it has a short-term bounce here, I do think that this is headed down further south towards 10.5. In fact, that is going to be a really relevant thing when thinking about Bitcoin. I've been speaking about all these bullish things, but of course that always comes at the point of contingency where biases change. This is why, technically speaking, I should be bullish on Bitcoin as long as it's above, especially 10.8. Looking at this, I don't feel like that at all. At fucking all. We can go look at XLK as well. And what do we see? We see an even more, I wouldn't say more damning chart, but we see an as equally damning chart as it puts in a lower high right here, rejecting, just getting a reversal of trend, and now looking like it wants to push off. And seeing as this one does not trade futures, so it doesn't trade in after hours, I would be looking for this one to come back down toward or open up somewhere around 113 region. Looking at the weekly once again, this looks like it could very easily take a massive tumble. If Nasdaq comes down to 10.5, I'd be looking for this one to come back down to like 107.5. So there's a lot that can be done right here. And if that does happen with all these babies, especially with techs closing a daily below basically wherever the 55 is right here, which is going to be about 113, I'd probably be looking at Bitcoin to take a tumble with it. That's been the trend over the long period of time. And when you look at it like this, you also do realize that when we're talking about that last, okay, so remember when we were talking about the hourly historical volatility percentile read, the contraction phase that we're looking at? Let's go back here, and you can see it actually a little bit easier on volume, and this actually makes me feel a lot more confident on this, although it would also imply a much longer resolution date for this whole formation that we're looking at here. But you can see very clearly that ever since we got into this nice rally at end of July to where we are right now, this is going to be considered one whole major macro consolidation with an intended resolution point probably towards the end of October. So this can take a long time. So it could be that Bitcoin's trading between 10,000 and 12,000 for the next couple, or I guess next month. But again, this is something to keep in mind as we put the puzzle piece together, because we're seeing bifurcation right now, and you probably don't want to see that. Well, if you want to be bullish, you don't want to see that, because Tex and Nasdaq have been such a good asset to kind of run Bitcoin off of, and right now these guys are very obviously coming down. I mean, this is the week where I did say. This is the first time I've really felt like that, most major markets are toppy. Obviously, we're going to go into rotations, but techs are going to get rotated down. And if Bitcoin does trade with the techs, like Nasdaq and XLK, then, well, it probably goes down with it. And this one's got a lot of space to the downside. Like I said, 10.5 would be a very natural target. Probably bounce implied along the way at like 10.850ish region, but just that, just a bounce. And on the lower term timeframes, it's just a downtrend right here. So, technically speaking, I wouldn't look for the next major shattering move until we get like a 4-hour closure below, what was that, $11,000, or a daily closure below the 55 right here, which is I think like more towards 11.1, 11,075. But it is in play right now, and this is a pretty nasty rejection right there too. And this is a very similar chart to what Bitcoin did, right? We had that first pop up, plays out a range below 10.5, come back down to 10,000, then we actually break above. This is Bitcoin, back to 11.1, whereas Nasdaq puts in a slightly higher high, but it turns into rejection all along the same way. This is what I'm concerned of happening on Bitcoin, and that's why I've been really harping on that 10.8 region. So, am I supposed to be bullish on this? Yes. Does it feel like that looking at the rest of the market? Do I feel like a fucking lemming for thinking that? Yes, I fucking do. Yes, I do. But fair enough, man. There's always something new to do. All right. Okay. What else do we have to deal with here? Let's go look at E-mini futures for SPY. Do we see the same thing here? Oh, what do you know? We do actually see the same thing. Do we need to start queuing Lexington steel gifts? I'm not so sure just yet. But yeah. Same sort of thing here. Base coming in around 3,300, below 3,300. I get bullish for a move to 3,200. I get bullish for a bullish dump to 3,200. There you go. Same thing here. It's a very, 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 very similar chart, but not as aggressive. Short term down though, I would be looking for this one to come down to 3,300 regardless of whatever the fuck it's going to be doing. Probably does have a small bounce there, and then continuation implied. Probably maybe on Friday, but probably next week. What about euro dollar? Big nosedive. Finally come down, you goddamn piece of shit. Fuck you, euro dollar. Fuck you. Just want to give him all the Lexington steals that he deserves. Sorry, I don't mean that to piss anyone off. Just understand that I am a stupid American with most of my money in dollars, and I live in Europe. And and this whole bullshit over here is not fun to watch. Even though I actually did switch a lot of my money into euros anyway, so it's not a big deal. I'm just having a fucking laugh, man. I just know that someone's gonna get actually pissed off at that. It's like, Krown, how dare you talk shit about my euro? Well. Oh God. Oh God. Okay. Probably does try another small bounce here. I don't think that this one's fully ready to break down just yet. I still think this is going to take some time, but short term, probably a small move back down to 117 base. I would be looking for a bounce there and set this up for a continuation. Maybe coming into next week or the week after that. I've been saying this for a long time. As long as this thing is closing weekly deltas below 119.5, especially, I do think that it's going to be your next macro high. This is a 12-year long trend. If you look at on a monthly, and I don't really see any real reason for this 12-year long trend to stop. In fact, what we have going on right here is, well, actually, no, we don't. I was going to say we potentially have a bearish engulfing dildo. Nope, it's still a little bit further away. Still need to trade below the low of this guy at just below 117 possible. But when you look at it on a monthly, you realize that this is going to take a long time regardless of which way you cut this one. While I do think that this comes down, it would still take like another month or two, and then yeah, I would be looking for moves back down to 115 and probably beyond. But for the current moment in time, yeah, just holding the range, probably testing the bottom side of the range, a half cent lower than where we are right now at like 117 even. What else do we want to look at? What about Dixie? Dixie popping back up, as you'd suspect. What do you know? It looks like a fucking inverted chart of euro dollar. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that wild? Yeah, and I do think that this one's going to pop back up a little bit more short term, like 93.64 region, just wherever that prior high is. And this is really important right here. Who was calling this out yesterday? Was it Pena? I think it was Pena. I think it was Pena. So credit to Pena for this. Or no, it was who? I forget who it was. Show yourself, whoever it was. If it was Pena, then I want to give him credit. But if not, then well, I still want to give. I like Pena. She should get credit for something. Anyways, looking at this right here, this is really, 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 really important. Dixie claws back and puts in a higher low. This is continuation. We close on a higher high. Yes, that's what I remember now. Okay, someone was asking. Okay, Krown. Dixie made a new high in this run, and then immediately it comes back down and takes out the prior high, and I got bearish based off that. Was that the right call? I forget who this was, but no, that's actually not the right call, because when you do have something like this, where we called this out about a week ago, where Dixie closed on a new high, that's actually really important because it's one half of a reversal. You can't be a full reversal with just one half though, but you can start a reversal with one half. So how do you do that? Well, first we get a higher high, so we've reverted that trend. But what do you need to reverse? Well, you need a higher low. So it does naturally come back down straight after that. That's completely fine. But as long as it puts in a higher low, which could be anywhere between, basically where your prior low was and where we're trading right now, then all good. And that is your higher low right there. This looks like a reversal to me. I do feel like this is going to reverse a little bit sooner than what I first anticipated. I was saying over the next few months. This looks like it's going to happen over probably the next month. This is looking good on a weekly, any sort of a weekly closure, especially above 93.5, and I'd be looking for a nice big move up to $94 over the next couple of weeks, and probably beyond after that. So this is a pretty damn big important thing, because, well, everything trades against the dollar, and if the dollar starts turning up, then we should expect that most markets in concert will come down. Obviously, there will be some outliers here and there. Of course, it's a world market. There are rogues, but for the most part, things do trade together, and this is very much relevant. So we actually do have it in play right now. And yeah, that's what Penny was asking. Penny was saying a lot of the times we come down to like the 618 or the 786 during these corrections, and that's gonna be your higher low. Well, there you go. There you go. Fucking well called, Mountain. Well called. And now we can move on. So let's see, what else do we have? Do we want to look at some more bullshit cryptocurrency? Yes, we do. We love bullshit cryptocurrencies here. Mr. Butyrol popping back up towards 385. Quick rejection there, though, and looking like it wants to give another swipe up, though. Mr. Butyrol looks like he wants to swipe back up to like 393 region. The question is, when I'm looking at techs and Nasdaq, I get very apprehensive to get bullish here. I guess the levels are still the levels, but as long as this, technically speaking, yes, I would be looking for this one to pop back up towards 395. This looks fine. As long as it's above the 200 exponential moving average, I cannot be bearish on this at all. Well, not at all, but I wouldn't be bearish on it while everything's trading sideways in kind of like a neutral position as far as major moving averages go. It does look like it wants to pop back up here, and above 395, I would get bullish for a big move to the upside, probably somewhere around like 425 to 430ish region. Same sort of thing as Bitcoin, though. It's like it's within a range. There are some things that are a little bit concerning, but from a momentum oscillator perspective on a 4 hour, and contrary to Bitcoin, this one looks fine right now. 4 hours popping up, 3 hours popping up, bi-hourly popping up, hourly popping up. So everything's in unison right there. We also do have all sorts of trend lines coming down as well, which I won't go over in detail. I think this one for levels is just going to be the most relevant thing, and probably Bitcoin's going to choose a direction anyways. But technically speaking, yeah, I'd look for another move to 390 and above 395 on a 4 hour closure. If that is maybe 400, it's a little bit easier. I'd be looking for moves back up to 425 to 430ish region. All right, what else we want to check out? Probably not much. How deep into this video are we? We're too deep into this video. All right, we'll do a quick look at Link. Did it hit our target to the downside? I believe almost. I think I said about 90,000 Satoshis. We got down to 96,463 Satoshis. I think that there's a little bit more to go on this one. Well, then again, I look at a 4 hour. This one's pretty close to having a nice big bounce. Got some bullish divergence coming off the lows right here. It's gotten pretty fucking close. Daily looks like some more downside as well, though. So you know what? What's another 6,000 Satoshis? Let's bring her down to 90,000. Let's do it, baby. Let's do it. What about Cardano? Are we going for the full retrace? Probably in a bouncy area here. I do think that this one will go for a full retrace. This is a fucking god-awful chart. Just this thing should be murdered. Over the next like half year to a year, this thing will very likely come back down to like 500 Satoshis and beyond. But for right now, does it bounce within this region? Probably short term, yes. What about gold? What's gold doing? Oh no, gold actually not finding that $2,000 mark either. So I did say yesterday that I'd be looking for $2,000 on gold to get hit. We get up to 1974 about. It looks like I'm gonna be wrong on that one though. This one's coming down. Now it probably will have a short-term bounce where we are right now. This one's a little bit more of a potentially healthy consolidation in a symmetrical triangle. Typically don't like to draw these things out, but this does fit the bill. Volume signature works out, shape works out, and it's operating rather well within that region. But this one does seem to have more of a downside twist, in my opinion. I do think that this one, in line with what we see on the rest of the markets, probably does come down here actually. And if it does break below its current low structure at like 1920-ish region, I would look for it to overall come back down to mid to low 1800s. Okay, back on a Bitcoin. Let's start to wrap this bitch up. Okay, so realistically, I really wouldn't feel comfortable using any low-term time frame to judge this one right now, just because technically speaking, there are some good things, in the cards, things that I have rules of fading against. But if I had to use a 4 hour, I suppose I'd look for either a 4 hour closure below 10,700 or maybe 10,750. Yeah, below 10,750, and I could get bearish. I'd feel a lot more comfortable with a 12 hour or a daily below 10.8. However, if we do go back below 10.8, I would overall look for another move back down, at the very least to 10,350-ish region, with a likely another test down to $10,000 base, in line with what we see on Nasdaq and in the tech sector. By the same token, as long as that condition is not met, as long as Bitcoin continues to close 4 hour deltas above 10.7 or 12 hour or daily deltas above 10.8, I do look for, technically speaking, I should be looking for this one to pop back up into the mid to low 11,000s. 11.3 still a relevant target, 11.5 still a relevant target. And to be fair, like that is my main disposition right now based off my trading strategy, separating my thoughts and emotions from it, because, well, as you can see, I'm quite mixed up in that regard. But I do not trade my thoughts and emotions. I trade technical analysis in that regard. Technically speaking, I should be looking for some more upside right here. However, the risk management areas for these regions are very well defined. So I'd keep them in mind for right now. Oh, and look who's up. It's Sleeping Beauty. Welcome back to the world. Anyways, I think that's a good place for me to sign off right now. I want to wish you the best once again. Take care, and until next time.